Greetings, programs. Welcome to the grid. I am Sark, and we're going to take a crack at this knight today. Before I get into it, I want to talk a little bit about some of the pieces. As a child, the rook was my favorite piece, both because it was so powerful, and I think I had an old PC-DOS version of Battle Chess, so the rooks in that were a lot of fun. But as I got older, I began to really appreciate the knight, both for its tactical flexibility on the chessboard, but also because it represents an older way of thinking about chess. The knight represents the fact that the chess is playing at war. And a lot of old games, like Toffel and other similar chess-like games, Trunculi, the Japanese one, I forget what it's called at the moment, but they're all sort of playing at war, and that's because some of the skills necessary to think about, having to make sacrifices, having to take the best of two undesirable possibilities, having to reinvent your plan as you go because your opponent gets a vote. All of those things are necessary skills to develop for existential reasons. And the chessboard or similar tabletop games are places to develop those skills without getting real people killed. And what I like about the Staunton Knight, this sort of classical design, is that it's got this wild-eyed, terrified look. And you can just imagine that a horse has been pushed beyond what it can handle. And I think that's very reflective of the things that men can do to one another. So, without getting too deep there, I would just like to show, this is not the knight I've chosen. I found another one that made an impression on me. So, it's a Staunton-like design. Let's see, unhide all. Here it is. And this one, it's somehow even more terrible. Maybe it's just because of the way the mouth is gaping open. Maybe it's because of the way the nostrils are flared. So this is the one I've chosen to model today, and I'll show you. We're gonna start here because the bottom part is very, very easy. I've shown how to do that a number of times, and we can always hook it up at the end. I'll start with 8 sides because that'll be relatively easy. But before I get into that, real quick, show you if I have it here. Have I closed it? Probably closed it. There's a statue in Boston called the Partisans, and you can go look it up. And it's got these men who are emaciated on these horses that look like skeletons with their mouths hanging open, and just it's excruciating to look at. It's a very evocative statue and quite sobering, and it's a tribute to the Polish military who continued fighting against the Nazi occupation in the Second World War, and then, of course, had the dubious honor of being rescued by Stalin's forces. So, you can imagine what those guys put up with. But I remember seeing that those horses' faces. You can't sort of unthink it, and this reminded me of that. So I think that's why I chose this one. You can go look it up on your own. All right, to modeling. So we're going to take a cylinder. Center it up on our grid. F4. Do I have my gnome board up? I do. Okay, good. And I guess I'm just going to start lining this up. I thought about using the orthographically accurate Staunton Knight, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference for our process here. Yep, I'm just going to convert this to double poly. Delete the bottom. Go into our front view. Grab a whole object, I guess, and start thinking about how it's going to line up. Once it has some thickness here, it'll be easier to see what we're doing. So we'll go ahead and extrude this. So we can extrude it. That makes sense. We'll do like that. Now we can hit Alt X and we can sort of force it to conform. Oh, one of the things I wanted to do before we went nuts on that was to look down on it and think about how the night looks from the top. So actually, oops, I want to rotate this 22.5 degrees. Why 22.5, you say? Well, that's because 8 goes into 360 rather evenly, and 22.5 happens to be half of an eighth of 360. So a 16th. That would be a way of describing it that makes sense. So we're going to use our angle snap. We're going to set it down to 22.5. Get our rotate tool, rotate our cylinder 22.5. Okay. So now looking down on it, turning that back to 5. Right. Looking down on it, we're going to be able to sort of think about how it gets thinner in some areas and thicker in others. And to do that now may save us a lot of time and effort down the road. So I think it's going to be awfully thin back here. Maybe comes back a little bit. And probably like these sections are thickest. But I bet it's more like this. Right? I'd like to think it's something like that. So that's what we're going to go with. And now I think that's going to make modeling down the road a little bit easier. Okay. So obviously this is a little much. Let's do something like that. And then we can take this top row, pull it forward, and then we can scale from there, right? So just look at my references real quick. Think about that. Yeah, up it goes. Maybe really all the way. We can always throw in some more edges later, so maybe all the way up here. And then hold the shift key maybe, or just, yeah, I'm going to delete the top. I'm going to get my border mode, and this just lets me shift extrude, right? So it's a little more freeform. We're going to go here, I think, here-ish. I'm going to narrow that a little bit that way. And let's think about maybe this line wants to rotate like 5 degrees. Just trying to get the overall expression of the thing, right? There's a flow that it's sort of thrusting its chest out a bit, so we'll try and go with that flow a little bit. And up again. Maybe right to the edge of the head. And then of course we're going to scale this in a bit. Maybe scale it in general, you know. About side to side as well. So scales in a little this way too. Probably so. Okay. So looking at that. And then maybe I'll take my last row and sort of pull it up, and then I think we're going to end up like deleting half of it or adjusting it in some way. Let's see what we want to do. I might want to scale it in. W, maybe right up to the ear. I think that's probably a good spot to sort of plan things around. So having done that, it's probably a good time to start thinking about symmetry. So we'll go ahead and probably cut an extra line in here, you think? Probably got to cut one in for our symmetry. So we'll just do a basic connect, right? And delete half our night. Select it with a polygon mode. Delete that half. We can always come back. Okay, now as I think about this, now I've got this like extra loop, right? So I'm going to press loop and maybe pull this back a little bit. So now I can be reminded that I sort of have two edges there. Okay. And then maybe I want to start thinking about like sort of following some of these. Not 100% sure, but starting to think maybe I pushed this one a little too far forward. And probably on the back edge I have another loop I'm forgotten about. That's part of what I'm thinking. So, and pull this one this way a little ways. Once again, just follow the zero touch. It's all pretty easy because we've deleted half our object, so we don't really have to think too much about the other side. I think maybe I want to think about another loop in here. So ring that, connect that once. And this will probably end up being some of this contour. Right? I've got to remember, mine's pretty angular. So all right. Well, I said I would get as far as sculpting the body. I guess that's kind of a cheat, but I really am going to have to spend more time thinking about the head. But in terms of the body, I think it's getting closer. I think maybe even if we took a couple of these and brought them in a little bit, you'd start to get some of the desired shape. Quick, see how it's coming along. I think I've mucked up pivot points, so let's just make sure we go to Effect Pivot and choose Effect Pivot and Reset Transform. There we go. And that should make things easier for our symmetry. No, all lies. Why does Reset Transform not work? Align to object. No, that was centered object. Align to world. Align to object. Align to world. We might have to reset XForm, so that's no big deal. What a mess. Alright, hold on. It really does not like being off kilter there. When did that happen? Okay. No. That is an unacceptable XForm arrangement. Okay, that's better. There we go. Let's see. Convert to editable poly. I think I fixed our issues. Yes, our symmetry aligns correctly now. So that's a good trick. Reset XForm. Yeah, I mean, it's starting to feel like, you know, it's a little funny. This is the phase where you really don't like what you're doing. That's okay. Just gotta bite the bullet and go through with it. Okay, so the good news is our geometry is set up for if we want to pull out those things in the back, we can. If we want to have this connect to a circular shape at the bottom, it won't be hard to do. So that's how to get going with your knight. More details next time. Good luck. Have fun.